Okay, as always, I start off with a little bit of some context. So remember, we're in Deuteronomy now. And so this is Moses' final words to the Israelites. So the Israelites were freed from Egyptian slavery. They wandered in the wilderness. And then they were going to go to the promised land, but they disobeyed God. And so God said, you can't go into the promised land for 40 years. And so this is after they were banished, and they were in the wilderness for a time of the 40 years. Now, during this time, one generation is passing away, and another generation is beginning. We saw at the end of Numbers that like Aaron had died, and Moses' sister, Miriam, she died, and that showed that not only did those two die, but that kind of everybody around that age group was now dying away, and so now there's this new people coming. And so this is right during that transition period. You'll see that Moses, he gives a summary of the journey so far. He kind of gives new direction moving forward. He kind of teaches based off of what has already happened. But this book is really over just the span of a few months. It's mainly just Moses' final words to the Israelites before Moses himself passes on. I am going to pray before we get into the meat of the lesson now. Amen. So I shared my testimony last week for testimony night because I couldn't find anybody to share for testimony night. And one of the questions was that I answered was, what are you learning right now, and how are you learning it? Well, what I'm learning right now is a deeper understanding of God's love, which to me, when I hear people say that doesn't carry a lot of weight, because it's been so oversaid. And God's love, you hear God's love, God's love, God's love, and it just loses its oomph. But we talk about God's love over and over and over again because it's so powerful, and because we know that it can change lives, and because we know that it's grand to the point that He created the universe, that He created you so you could have a relationship with Him. Like, God's love is supposed to be powerful. He's an eternal God. It's supposed to go on forever. And it's incredible to me that just because we repeat it, then this eternal, mind-blowing, if you got a glimpse of Him, you would die, it just becomes shallow for some reason. And so lately, I have been learning a deeper understanding of God's love in a way where it captivates me. That last song that we sung to, Lord is the witness that I play that on repeat because it just grips me every time. So I also shared in my testimony last week, you know my parents. And so you know who I was raised by. Now when I graduated high school, I've said this before as well, I graduated high school and I went through this phase of being on my own. And what I realized was that Christianity had really only changed my life in its morals, in its rules. I understood Christianity as rules. Even though I could say over and over again that God loved you, my faith was built more off of the rules. We have this understanding that if you don't sin, then you're going to be in right favor with God. We all run on that thought. Because we were raised to be Christians, and so our understanding of God is just built off those rules. It's like those rules have become so a part of me that even I think that if I ended up not being a Christian, for some reason I denied Jesus, I think I would still probably maintain a lot of the same morals because they're just so built a part of who I am. But the thing is that these rules were built a part of who I was, but God's love wasn't in it. And so that year, when I graduated, I felt completely hollow and empty. I felt so cold inside. I felt so alone. I didn't know why I believed what I believed. I didn't know why I had these rules. And so, David, can you jump forward a few slides? If there's one thing that I want you to remember tonight, and I'm going to repeat it twice, jump forward a few more slides, just the quote. When God's rules are a part of your life, but His love isn't, you will feel empty and hopeless. I'm going to repeat it, because if there's nothing else. When God's rules are a part of your life, but His love isn't, you will feel empty and hopeless. Because that's not the way that He designed it. He did not design us just so that we would have to follow His rules. I've said it over and over again. We've gone through the first 5 books of the Bible. God created us to enjoy a relationship with us. We were created to have relationship with Him. We were created out of a byproduct of His love. And we broke that, and since we broke that, He's been clawing for a relationship with us. I've used the illustration of Laura. I love my wife. And the center of our relationship that we strive for is for it to be about love. We love each other, and because of that, then we follow the rules for each other. I love my wife, so I am going to do everything I can to be faithful to her. I love my wife, so I'm going to do everything I can to treat her right, to make her feel special, and she's going to do the same thing for me. But the center of it is love. It has to be love. Because what would our marriage be if there was no love? It would just be we had rules for each other. That's miserable. The same exact thing is the case with God. He wants love. He wants to love you. He wants you to love Him. And if you're just sitting here following His rules, there's no backing of it. There's no relationship. There's no reason to even follow the rules. When you look at the Bible through all these biblical heroes who encountered God, they were changed by His love. Their life changed because of His love. And what are our lives like? When you think of like the cosmic romance that's going on here, think of the entire universe, and He's the one who created it, and He wants to love you. That's all He wants. Everything can be boiled down to that. David, now jump back a couple slides. We're going to Deuteronomy. And here's Moses' command to the new generation and as a reminder to the old generation. Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one. Love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your strength. And then he goes on and he gives commandments. But before he gives any commandments, he has to say, love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your mind, with all your strength. Who are we if we're not loving God? If you are not captivated by Him? If you don't feel yourself melting when you think about Him? If you don't feel His peaceful presence, there's something wrong. And you're probably just following the rules. If you think of God, and it's just kind of like this cold indifference, that's a problem. If you have a hard time trying to worship like I kind of always have, that's a problem. When I think of my wife, I have no problem feeling warm inside. I have no problem thinking about how great she is because I love her. It's just natural. But then I move over to my relationship with God, and it's like, oh man, I'm getting distracted with these thoughts. Oh man, I don't like this song. The thing is that I have this wonderful relationship with my wife, but I wasn't designed, I wasn't created. My purpose was not to be married to Laura. That's just an incredible blessing along the way. My purpose since the beginning of time was to enjoy a relationship with him. So as wonderful as my relationship with Laura is, it should be nothing in comparison with my relationship with God. Because when I'm enjoying relationship with God, I am fulfilling my very purpose for existence. I should feel fulfilled, I should feel moved, and it should be the same for you. And so if this, go ahead and go next slide. Here we have in Matthew, fast forwarding to the time of Jesus. Jesus had silenced the Sadducees and the Pharisees, and one of them said, "What is the greatest commandment of the law?" Jesus replied, and he quoted Deuteronomy, "Love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your mind." This is the first and greatest commandment. All the prophets hang on these two commandments. Love God and love others. The entire law can be summarized in loving God. Because if you love God, you will want to please him. You will want to not sin. There's not even really a reason for the law if you are truly loving God, because you will be constantly focused on not wanting to hurt him. Guys, for us who grew up in the church, and for us who didn't, if God's love doesn't melt you, and if it's not at the centerpiece, we have to desperately seek it. And if you're in a place where it's not like God's love is really that captivating, that's okay. I don't want you to beat yourself up, but you need to recognize where you're at. God's love doesn't, if it doesn't do that for you, then we need to start praying intensely so that it can be like that.